smiling with my eyes. I'm Lisa Mitchell. I'm the Vice President of Programs and Services for Ronald McDonald House Charities of Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. And I'm here at the Ronald McDonald House near Lurie Children's. So you'll have to excuse us. We're going to be masked tonight, which I'm sure you can all understand because we're here in the kitchen. I am proud to be the team leader for our direct front-facing staff here at Ronald McDonald House Charities. We're so grateful that you all joined us tonight in this yet another virtual fundraiser to make sure that we can raise the money we need to provide the care that we provide to families while they seek medical care for their children in our local hospitals. I'm going to be bouncing in and out a little bit tonight throughout the evening, talking about the charity and what we do and what you're helping us do. I know that you didn't log in tonight to see me though, but to get into the kitchen. Before you do that, I wanted to just take a moment to introduce our newest staff team member to you. Kevin Guida is our new chef here at the Ronald McDonald House near Lurie Children's. We're so thrilled to have him join us, bring many years of hotel experience of major kitchens, bringing food to people in those restaurants. Love comes from food, we know. And so just wanted to take this kitchen moment to introduce you to Chef Kevin.
Good evening. Thank you, Lisa, for the introduction. I'm very excited to lead the Culinary Hearts program here at the Ronald McDonald House near Lurie Children's. It's so important to keep families together in their time of need, and especially now with COVID.
So you're going to make something amazing with Chef Mike tonight. And I hope that you'll be inspired to maybe think about how you might be able to come and bring some of that love of culinary into the Ronald McDonald House. We have very small volunteer services right now, but desperately needed because our families need to be kept healthy and well, and food is a big part of what we provide as support. So we'll be talking about that throughout the evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to kick it right over to Chef Mike, the man of the hour, who's going to get us started with his knife skills and cooking demonstration. So thank you all for joining.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Happy to be here. I'm joined here today with my sous chef for the night, Uma. Go over your sous chef. He's walking around the other side. It's my husband, Uma. Our pug Soda down here, who's positioning himself for his cleanup crew. He's just lounging for now, but he'll hop into action here in a minute. But we'll just jump kind of right into it. So in front of me, we're talking about knives today. I've got a whole assortment of knives, different kinds of knives here. So with knives, if you're purchasing knives, there are like three big options that you can go after. The first one is probably what I recommend is a stainless steel knife. These are traditionally German knives, heavy duty, harder to sharpen, but once they sharp, they hold their blade a lot longer. But then from there, you can also look at high carbon knives. So these are Japanese knives, or usually particularly Asian knives. High carbon, it means they have a higher level of carbon in the steel that's forged to do this. What's nice about these is they're really easy to get sharp, and you can use a material like a ceramic to sharpen them rather quickly. But they're very brittle. They'll break on you. They do make some high carbon knives with stainless combo, which is like this guy here. So it's several layers of stamped steel on top of it, and it goes stainless on the outside, high carbon on the inside. So that's another option. That'll make it so it's a little less brittle. Different styles of knives. Hold on, I forgot about one. We also have ceramic knives. These are good for like fruit. They stay super sharp, but are incredibly brittle. You have to actually to sharpen these and get them sharp, they use diamonds. It's the only material because the material is so hard, ceramic is. But I like these for doing like small fruit prep and things like that. Styles of knives. This is probably the only real knife. These two knives are the knives you should have in your kitchen. Just a good paring knife and a good chef knife always. You'll be able to do a number of things with these. This is more of an Asian style chef knife, a Satuku. Also good. Sometimes these are fun because they'll put aerations like this along the side of them, and that prevents vegetables from sticking as you're cutting through them. They'll actually fall off the knife is the idea. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, those little divots that are in there. From there, we have some other kind of non-traditional knives, like a cleaver, right? I got this cleaver when I was in Hong Kong. This is more of a chef's knife. If you're in Asia, every chef will have one of these, and they'll use it for everything from veg prep to hocking through chicken bones, right? So also not very a necessary knife for the home kitchen, but nice to have. Other kind of nice to have knives are things like a good fillet knife. You see how this bends? So this guy's really made for cutting through fish, right? So you have a fish fillet down, it bends, kind of travels with the fish as you're filleting it. Serrated knives, of course, for bread, right? But these are also great for going through things like pineapples or fruit. It's easy to saw through and get the rinds of things off. Finally, a boning knife. What's nice about these, if you've got a big piece of meat, you're getting the bone out, it's got some bend to it. It's also got a fine point to kind of get around crevices and things like chicken, right? Like get all the meat off the bone is really the idea. Finally, we have our honing devices. So these are called steels. This is a ceramic one. This is a diamond one. What you do with these guys is really just to try to refresh your blade. Kind of go at a 35-degree angle like that. It'll sharpen your blade rather quickly. To really get your blade sharp, though, you do need to sharpen it. I recommend, if I can find it now, there it is. Good thing it's on top. Just a little knife sharpener like this if you don't have one at home. Just basically draw the blade through it, and away you go.
Chef Mike, I have a couple questions for you. So first question is, what's your favorite most used knife? What do you recommend people have if they have nothing else?
Again, these two guys here, you're going to be able to do everything with them, right? So if you're going to go for the Asian style, I do like this. This was my primary knife when I worked in restaurants. This was my go-to. Like every day I would use it, right? Because it's small size, multi-purpose. You're going through things that's not very heavy, right? What's nice about a cleaver, even though it's heavy, it does all the work for you, right? All that weight just goes right into what you're trying to cut. So kind of different knife, different style. So I was talking about the Asian chefs. That's why they like this. I really just like a small multi-purpose knife like this.
Nice. Second question is, how often should you sharpen your knives?
As soon as it's dull, you want to always work with a sharp knife. You never want to use a dull knife. A dull knife's more dangerous than a sharp knife.
Awesome. And how do you wash your knives?
Well, wash your knives. I usually soap and water, never in the dishwasher, right? Dishwasher can ruin a knife. For example, like these guys are all attached here, right? It'll warp out that wood. So again, don't want to use it. As you can see, these are good German knives. It's forged from one single piece of steel that runs the entire length of the knife. That's also important when you're selecting a knife.
Great, thanks.
So, you put these back for me? Cool. So Uma's going to run those back over there, and we'll hop right to it. So when you're getting set up for your cooking station, always important thing, have a nice towel underneath your cutting board. It prevents the cutting board from sliding from you, right? And we're pretty much ready to go. One other kind of piece of knife safety, if you're walking with a knife, hold it on the side as you walk like this. So if it goes anywhere, it doesn't go into your feet, it goes straight into the ground. Never walk towards someone with a knife like this. That's dangerous, right? Now, Uma's like making faces at me from across the kitchen because I even did that. But just a couple other small pieces of knife safety before we get going.
By the way, he never cleans. I clean the knife.
I don't think they can hear you, Uma. Uma says he's the only one that cleans the knives, so you got to have Uma to have clean knives, I guess.
Chef, we have a question about your cutting board. Is there a difference in types of materials they're made of, one better than the other?
I would always use a wood or a plastic cutting board. The others are going to be way hard on your knives. If you got a glass cutting board, get rid of it. It's garbage. It's going to basically tear up your knife blade as you use it. So these are nice because it doesn't dull the blade as fast, right? Cool. Uma, can you grab me another bowl like this out of there? So we'll start off with our onion. I've already got mine peeled, but what you do when what you're looking for with an onion is you want to peel this part off first, right? This is the part where you're going to cut towards. It's the end of the onion where the root is. And the reason you want to do that is that, like you can see with the shallot, it's really what holds the onion together when you're cutting it. The petals kind of form here and out like a flower, right? So in this case, this is the back end of the onion here. So we're going to cut towards it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half. And for our pot roast tonight, we're looking at 1/4 inch dice. So I've got the onion like this. So I'm roughly going to go up 1/4 inch and cut straight through. And I'm going to do it all the way across the onion. 1/4 of an inch up, right? I'm gonna flip it towards me. And again, we're 1/4 inch slices. If stuff like that falls off, don't worry about it. You can put it back on the onion. You're gonna hold your hands. So your fingers, you got a flat edge here. That way you're never cutting into your finger. You got your finger like that, knife could go into your finger. Straight through, trying to get them roughly around 1/4 an inch. Nice and even, right? So we're gonna flip this guy like this. And we're just gonna start slicing 1/4 inch slices all the way through. We're getting nice 1/4 inch dices on your knife. If something like that falls off, no big deal, we can pick it up afterwards. And then when you get to the end like this, if it's sticking together a little bit, we'll just quickly chop it. Take that end like that, chop it, and through 1/2 of our onion. And if you miss it the first time, it's okay, because we're gonna do it again the second half. Go ahead.
Any tips on not crying when you cut onions?
It's my tip is to wear contact lenses, because that keeps me from crying. But you can, if you're really sensitive to it, you can wear, I've seen people actually wear safety goggles before. Other thing is to work with cold onions. That keeps the volatiles from being as strong as they are. Trick we do at the restaurant, if we were really crying, is you could head into the walk-in. That cold environment kind of zaps the volatiles out of the onion that are making it cry. But all else fails, take a breather, take a step back, and hit it again when you're ready. Luckily, we're not making French onion soup here, because that's the one that'll kill you with onions. We go through a lot of them.
So someone asked another question about the onion. So how does the onion hold together if you chop the kind of root end off? And then any tips on Joan asked if she heard you're never supposed to cut towards your hand. So how do you keep your hands safe with kind of the parallel cut you're doing?
Well, basically when I'm holding it, I lost it. Here's a shallot. You can hold it like this. It's not going towards my hands. I'm actually going kind of, again, I'm not going all the way through the onion either. And I'm really watching how I stop. I'll show you, illustrate more of the shallot again. You're right. You should never you should try to cut away as much as you can. But one of the ways you're only going to hold a grip is to go like that, right? And that root of the onion, if you do cut it off, it'll still hold up better on this end than that end, because as you can see, it's all coming together at that root end, right? So we're cutting an onion. We're not starting on this side. We're starting on this side where the root's at.
So you don't necessarily want to cut out the whole root. You want to keep a little bit kind of attached.
Yeah, you can keep a little bit attached, right? It won't fall apart. You can cut it the reverse way too. It's just going to fall apart easier. It's not going to be the end of the world. All right, get all our onion in the bowl. Cool. And I'm just kind of using my knife as a little bit of a scoop. All right, so we got all of our onion. Let's go ahead and do our celery. These guys are trying to get closer to 1/2 inch. So you can see it's a little different kind of for where you're at with the celery. So you want to kind of try to cut it so it's even all the way across. That's going to go right in there. So this one's kind of thin, so I'm just going to leave it as is. It's just these bigger ones that we're going to cut in half. Again, trying to get to about that 1/2 inch size when we slice it. The big thing with this is we're trying to get everything as even as we can, size-wise, so it all cooks evenly when we make our pot roast here. All right, so you see we got them all stacked up, and now we can just kind of go again. Like this, voila. Smooth, even stroke down. Got a bunch of diced up, 1/2 pound of diced up celery for a pot roast. Pretty even in size. I'm just gonna slide my bowl over here a little easier. Soda the dog is watching very intently as I'm spilling celery on the floor. You got it. Cool.
They know where the treats are.
Yep, they do. So again, we're looking at 1/4 inch slices here. So I'm gonna slice it kind of differently as we go down the carrot. We'll start at the top. It's already about 1/2 of an inch here. So we're gonna do little round ones here. And we'll cut it in half here. Because the carrots, again, not uniform. They're not perfectly square. But I don't want to waste the carrot. Cut this guy here. And at this point, we'll start squaring them up just a little bit. To get it even again. I'm gonna go ahead and throw these bits into my compost. I compost all my vegetables. We have a big garden outside during the summer. So all this goes right into the all this will be goes right into that compost, and then my garden thrives all summer. Normally I'm doing this recipe, I'm using fresh herbs from that garden, but they've all been zapped for the year now. Till the spring. So I got a last piece of carrot. I do like to use these bigger carrots when I make the pot roast as well. They're much sweeter than what you get in the store. Bigger carrots are usually made to actually make baby carrots. Baby carrot isn't actually grown that size. It's a full grown carrot that gets kind of whittled down into that shape. So again, we're looking around 1/2 an inch. You squirt off the carrot. You stack some of those on top of each other, and still about 1/2 an inch each. This guy too. And we'll take these batons. And again, nice 1/2 inch cubes. And we got roughly the 8 ounces to go in our recipe.
Can you talk a little bit about what you grow in your garden?
Yeah, so I mostly grow like summer squash and tomatoes. And then I do have a big herb garden where I've got like oregano, basil, parsley, chives, we're missing sage, tarragon, just pretty much the full herb garden. A couple of them come back every year, like the thyme and the sage plant come back every year. The others I usually tend to have to replant again. Right now I do have some rosemary out there that's withstanding the winter pretty well. So what I got here, this recipe calls for potentially 3 types of root vegetables. It's actually, the recipe, I named it after the local grocery store. And what's kind of funny about going to the local grocery store that's down the street from me, every time I go there, the recipe changes a little because they use whatever they have for root vegetables when we start. I've got a couple examples of what these guys look like if you go get them from the store. This is a parsnip. It's very similar to a carrot. It's just much more sweeter. We've got a turnip here, which is kind of like a big radish. It's not as strong flavored as a radish. It's more mild and sweet. And then we got a rutabaga, which again, also like a big radish or big turnip, even bigger turnip. This is really mild in flavor, eats a little bit more potato-like, but it's still not quite as starchy. We're just gonna use the parsnips and the turnips tonight. So again, chunk off the end of a parsnip here. We've cubed her up. Again, looking for about 1/2 inches.
Any advice, you kind of did it with the carrot and a little bit with this right now, about cutting round vegetables so they aren't sliding around on you?
Yeah, so what you can always do is cut one end off, right where you start. So you got that so it won't slide on you. And then I'm just rounding them off again so it'll cook more evenly is kind of the idea. Some traditional like French stuff, though, they'd be even more careful or crazy with the knife, the dimensions of some of this stuff with a lot of the fine cooking, like if you're making a consomme and are garnishing it with a brunoise of vegetables, that's a really small dice. You're talking about 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch cube. So again, we're making this pot roast here, so we're not going to be that picky or worry about too much about how it looks. But we're just going to make sure they're cubed. So again, in the end, it all cooks out about the same. Cool. So now we're going to move on to our second batch of ingredients that we're add. I left this garlic unpeeled for a reason, so I can show you guys how we're gonna cut it, or an easy way to get the skin off. What I like to do, there's always a small spot here at the bottom of the garlic, right, where it kind of attaches and holds the bulb. We're gonna cut that off first, and then we're just simply gonna press down with the knife, and that'll pull all the skin off the garlic really quick. Do it again, because we need 3 cloves. You guys will see it 3 times. This is a slightly bigger clove, so it's got a couple other pieces in it. We'll still count it as 1. And we got this guy, which may actually be kind of like 3. See, I didn't even need to peel it that time. It just, all that skin pops right off and can go right into our compost. Go ahead and cut the garlic first. This guy, so I'm gonna get some garlic on my knife.
And while you're doing that, another question about garlic for you. Is there a difference in hand chopping it like this versus using a garlic press?
Yeah, I like hand chopping it versus the garlic press, because the garlic press, you tend to lose a lot of juice that's in the garlic. This will keep all that juice still kind of locked into the garlic, and you'll get more of that garlic flavor. You won't lose a lot of the kind of the volatiles that are with the garlic. I'm just kind of thinly slicing, rocking back and forth with the knife on this. And then we're just going to get this kind of roughly chopped here.
Any tips on getting the garlic smell off your hands and your cutting board after you're done?
Soap and water is the only way to do it. It's a lot. It's kind of an oily thing, right? So it'll stick to it.
I've seen them sell those like stainless steel soap bars at the like Bed Bath and Beyond and stuff, and I always think those. I always wonder if they work.
Is that supposed to zap the garlic? I don't know. I've never heard of that.
Sometimes if I'll run my hand on the side of the sink, and I think it works.
Yeah, things like soap and water is usually the only way to get rid of it. Same thing with like jalapenos. Those are notorious for having the kind of the resin from the jalapeno staying on your hands, and then you accidentally rub your eyes and it starts to burn, right? So again, the only way to do it's really for me is soap and water. Yep. Yeah, you don't want to wear contacts if that happens. All right. We got a pretty nice even chop. I wouldn't say it's as far as minced, it's just kind of a rough chop here. But again, we're making something that's not too fancy or finesse, so it can be a little rough. It's all this stuff's all pretty much gonna cook out anyway, down to nothing once it really goes into our pot roast. So the pot roast is gonna braise for, over 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna put that in with the mushrooms, because that's when we're gonna add it. It's with the mushrooms.
I have 2 other garlic questions for you, Chef.
Sure.
Is there any difference between elephant garlic and regular garlic other than the size of it?
I don't know the answer to that one. I'd have to look. My guess is it's a different species of garlic. I do know, like, I've used the purple garlic before and it's more pungent. So I don't know what the flavor aspect of how it's different, but it might appeal to somebody who doesn't like to peel that many garlic cloves, right? So
that'll work.
Yep. Again, like the onion, right? This is our shallot. Shallot's kind of like a small, kind of like a cross between a red onion and a green onion, right? A little bit bigger, kind of like a red spring onion. So we're going to cut it in half. And again, there's that root that we're going to cut towards, right? It's going to slice like that through it. You can use a paring knife with this if you don't want to use a knife that's this big. A lot of people will do that. But again, I like to use a chef knife. And then I'm just going to slice for you guys. We're going to do this one really small. So it's about 1/8 of an inch, right?
I have another garlic question for you while you're cutting the shallot. How do you store your garlic?
I usually store it just in a we got a random produce shelf thing over here that I store it in just a bag.
What do you do if your garlic sprouts? I notice sometimes if I have garlic sitting on the counter too long, it gets that little green sprout in it. Yeah,
typically you don't want to use it because at that point in time it's probably gotten too old. I just throw it out and get new garlic. Either that or you can go plant it in the backyard if it's a spring. Start growing garlic. Yep. So again, now we're just slicing right through these guys and we're mincing them right up. And again, the end like that, we can just kind of roughly chop into it. Next guy like this. And rocking back and forth. Okay, and then we're gonna just kind of, again, that end, we'll just cut right into it. We'll run the knife through it just one more time, just to even it out. Scrape that off, pieces over there. Slitting those into big pieces and just zapping it and rocking it back and forth with the knife. Cool. There we go, into there. I'm just doing that because we're gonna add all those ingredients at the same time. Cool.
When you have your mushrooms, do you wash them? Do you let them soak in water? I know I've heard that you're not supposed to, you're just supposed to brush it off because they absorb.
Yeah, you really just want to brush them off because they will absorb water. If you wash them, I think you're probably going to be fine. But if they're like really dirty, you might want to wash them, right? But most of the time, the ones from the store, you can just get and just brush them off. Okay, off my cutting board a little bit here. It's not the end of the world if you wash them though. Cool. I did go ahead and quarter the mushrooms. If you haven't done that, you can go ahead and do that with your recipe, guys. And I just like to keep them quartered versus a slice because they're going into something we're going to braise and they'll still be big and whole and meaty when we get there. So I went ahead and chopped the herbs already, but I'm going to show you guys how to pick your herbs here. So in front of me, we've got parsley, rosemary, and thyme, right? Parsley, you pretty much just want the leaf portion. You don't want as much of these stems. So go ahead and pull them off. I already have some of the herbs chopped up here. I just did that in the interest of time. So these leaves are now ready to go. A little bit of stems, okay. These guys here are pretty woody stems. So we're really after just these leaves on the rosemary.
Chef, here's a great question for you. Who was your most influential person that made you want to be a chef and a cook?
Oh, that's kind of a fun one. So I really got into food or cooking professionally when I was in my late teens. I always grew up around food. I worked in my dad's grocery store growing up in the deli, but then you know, went on to college from there. Didn't really like the school I was going to or what I was doing, so I kind of went back to culinary school. I went back to private community college just to kind of take some basic classes and figure some things out. And then started kind of enrolled in a culinary program, really liked it, and started working for the chef. His name's Tracy Toning at a restaurant in Cedar Rapids. But he's the one that pretty much got me into this and got me really liking cooking with food. But I've always kind of been around food my whole life, right? So these guys here, you can just kind of hold your knife, the end of your knife, and rock back and forth. Again, we got all the stems out of the thyme there. Sorry, I didn't show you, but I just kind of pulled the small leaves off of the thyme. Cool.
And when you're done with the herbs, can you show the mushrooms and just let us know if you cut the stems off, and does it matter leaving the stems on or off for the mushrooms?
I did cut the stems off of some if they were kind of gnarly, like had a lot of dirt on them, or bruised, or looking like an older mushroom. You don't necessarily have to do that because somebody's already cut it once, right? We did leave the stems on them. These are Cremini mushrooms, or brown mushrooms. You'll see them in the story, usually called brown or baby bello, and they are really baby portobello mushrooms or small portobello mushrooms at this stage. I do like to use them in a braise like this because they're super meaty and they'll hold up really well to that braise. So this, again, that's pretty much all of our chopped herbs. Again, I already have about the half a cup the recipe calls for in there. I mean, the quarter cup. We'll go ahead and just add these on top. It's not going to hurt. You know what? I just noticed too that we forgot to cut one of our vegetables. We started talking and I got distracted. So we got here is still our turnip, right? Again, it's another round vegetable. Gonna slice her. It's going to even her out around the sides and even on the top. Make her more rectangular, rectangle-ish, cubish. Cut a little bit more off. It's all right if a little bit of herbs from the cutting board on this. It's all going in the same pot. Cool. All right. Flip it like this. And we'll get some more batons out of this guy. And this guy here. Cool. There are a lot of these, so I'm gonna do them separately.
And when you're done chopping this guy up, can you talk a little bit about the rocking motion you did when you're chopping the herbs, and if there's any kind of tricks to how to do that safely?
I mean, again, you're holding on to both ends, so you're not really cutting anything or your knife, and just going like that back and forth, right, is the idea. So hold the front end, back end at a time, and go like this, right? When we're working in a restaurant, we'll actually try doing that with 2 or 3 knives at a time. You can do it and do it really fast. You have to go through a lot of herbs.
So one other question, actually, this is good while you're kind of close up holding the knife. Can you show where your hand should be when you hold a knife?
Yeah, so I usually hold it like this around the side, right? Again. So again, you don't want this finger to drip down over that. Just keep your hands like this.
Because I know some people will hold on just to the kind of the back of the handle.
Yeah.
That makes it sometimes
don't
hard.
need to do that because you get a little bit more. I try to get my grip around this part here. It's called a tine, just because it's more stable for me. Okay. Uma, I'm gonna have you go ahead and turn that pot on the back burner there onto medium high. That pot there, the red one, the front one. Yep. So Uma's just going to warm up a pot so we get a little ahead of ourselves here. All right. And we've got everything diced up here. So I'm going to grab our pot roast next. We normally wouldn't have those little bits of herbs on there, but that's okay. So we've got our pot roast here. Pot roast is usually either top round or chuck, or it comes from the legs of the cow. I have seen people use brisket for pot roast, but probably wouldn't recommend it. It's pretty fatty. These are tougher cuts of meat. And so the cooking method we're going to use to really break them down and break down all this fat and collagen that's in there from the animal moving and using those muscles a lot is we're going to braise it. So we're going to hit it with a lot of heat for a long period of time in a liquid. And that rough environment is going to break down this pot roast and make it super tender. It's kind of the idea. You use this for this kind of cooking method for lots of different kinds of tougher cuts of meat, shank, ossobuco, short ribs, things that need that heat to get it to cook down. You wouldn't want to do this for like a nicer roast though, like a rib roast, right? Those are more dry heat and slower cooking methods. To really break it down. They don't need that much heat. They're tender as is. They don't need to be broken down. So see, I'm literally putting a lot of salt on this. That's good because it's only on the outside of the meat. We got to try to flavor some of the inside, right? And lots of black pepper.
Jeff, what's your favorite music to listen to while you're cooking?
Usually it could be anything. We've been listening to a lot of 70s music lately. So Uma's a big Mamas and Papas fan, so we do listen to a lot of Mamas and Papas. Well, alternative rock too. We just got one of those Apple Music subscriptions, so it's kind of fun. Jump from genre to genre. And it plays throughout the house.
I have a question for you about salting. Can you salt? Does it make a difference kind of when you salt the meat? Can you do it before? Should you do it right before?
You can do it before. Like if I was doing a steak, I'd do it kind of well before, right? Because that's going to draw a lot of the salt into the steak as well as, and get it to kind of penetrate a little bit further into the meat. So like roughly maybe an hour before you make a steak. It's not going to make that big of a difference with what we're doing here. The other thing too is that salt will pull some of the liquid out as well, just because it's basically acting like osmosis, right? So water wants to move to a greater concentration of salt. It's polar. So We're gonna go ahead and just kind of get those sides a little bit too with some of that excess salt and pepper. We don't lose it. I'm gonna wash my hands really quick. And then we're gonna come over here, Lisa, to this side, and we're gonna sear our pot roast.
Someone mentioned that your sous chef has a birthday.
Yes, his birthday's actually tomorrow. Facebook lies to a bunch of people and says it's on the 21st, so it's really the 22nd. So you got a lot of happy early birthdays. Yeah.
Happy birthday.
I think everyone relies on Facebook as their calendar now. It's a reminder for birthdays. So so over here we've got kind of the stuff we're going to set up for our next stage. I'm going to go ahead and kick the heat up on this a little bit higher to high. We're just going to make this in a Dutch oven. I'm using this one. I do like this one because it has the kind of ceramic coat on the inside, prevents things from sticking a little bit. We're going to use the kind of fat that you might not normally use to brown meat. I'm going to use butter, especially with the kind of the sear like this. What I like about the butter, it's got a lot of solids in it that are going to burn when we cook not really burn, but caramelize and toast when we cook the meat in it. Those brown caramel notes is what really makes a good pot roast, and we'll talk to that with kind of what we're going to do here next through the cooking down of the vegetables and everything else. So we go ahead and add this butter to here. It's going to sizzle probably pretty good to start. Cook it around the outside. We burn it a little bit.
Someone asked if pot roast is Uma's birthday dinner, or if he has some special birthday dinner that's his favorite.
Well, his real birthday dinner is tomorrow, and he has already requested chicken parmesan. He gets it every year. It's his favorite.
Very nice.
It's kind of a family favorite. So,
what's your favorite birthday dinner?
My favorite birthday dinner, my favorite thing to make and eat is pizza. So I've actually got a little wood-fired pizza oven outside that I got late this fall, and we fired it up, and I love that. So I've got a great pizza dough recipe that I make. It's like a 24-hour dough recipe. So you make the dough, let it proof, ball it, let that proof again, and then put it in the refrigerator overnight. And what that does is it basically causes a lot of the yeast development. It blooms and it dies, and it'll make the dough super stretchy. So it's really easy to pull and get it nice and big before it goes in the pizza oven. So we're gonna let this go right about. You see it's burning a little bit on the inside. That's all right. Go ahead.
Someone just asked what brand of pizza oven you have.
I can't remember the brand. It's like an off brand. There's this thing I bought on Wayfair for like 88 bucks. But it looks kind of like a chimenea, I guess is probably the best way to describe it. Then you guys had one of those, like an outdoor fireplace. It's maybe this big by this big. It's all ceramic, like terracotta. But again, you can get probably about 1 or 2 pizzas on it. It's not like a full-scale giant outdoor wood pizza oven. I'll get one of those someday. But right now, Uma says I've got enough stuff.
That's enough cleanup.
Yeah, he says he's done enough. That's enough things to clean up.
So while you have that in the pot, can you do this in a crock pot?
You can do this in a crock pot. You can't really do the same way I'm doing it, where we're getting all the burnt caramelized notes, right? It's going to be a crock pot, still going to braise the meat, but you're not going to get the same result sauce-wise at the end, like with the gravy that you're going to get off of it. And I'll show you that here. I do have another pot roast that's in this pot that's been in here roughly a little over 2.5 hours now. That will cut up, and we'll show you kind of what it looks like. But you'll really see what we're doing with the development of the sauce. So you can see now I've got a pretty good crust on the other side of the meat. That crust is going to translate to brown deliciousness in our gravy later on. Our gravy or our sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy up using your Lisa. I'll flip her over to the other side if I can. You can see that nice crust that we got on the outside of that. That's really what we're looking for, because that caramelization is going to equal flavor later, and you're not going to get that with a crock pot, right? That's the idea. We're gonna let this go probably about 3 minutes per side. And again, don't be afraid if you see this stuff burning on the side. That's flavor for later. Uma, can you snag me a clean plate?
Someone asked, do you recommend flouring the meat before you put it in the pan?
You can do that. That's a way to get some additional flavor onto it. To get some more burnt notes. That flour will kind of translate to help thicken your sauce too down the line. So no reason you can't do it that way. I just didn't choose to do it with this recipe. A lot of times you can like pan fry. Also, like adding flour to the meat will crisp it up a little bit too in the end potentially, but it's not really necessary for this. Sorry guys, that's a little dead air time as we sear our meat here. But it is looking pretty good in here. Again, what we're gonna do is we're gonna caramelize this, and we're gonna pull it out, start cooking all of our vegetables in there, and we'll go back in a bath later on. So we will pull this out here just in a minute. I think we're probably pretty close.
Do you have any recommendations on the type of pot? So you said this is like an enamel cast iron.
Yeah, this is enamel. You can really do this with anything. Like you can use this. I did it earlier in a stainless steel pot. Both work. Again, what's kind of nice about this is it's a little less potential for sticking, but you don't really get a whole lot of sticking with a braise because again, it's a moist cooking method. So it's not like stuff's really gonna get burnt to anything, right? So I'm gonna go ahead now. It's been about 3 minutes-ish.
Do you have a favorite thing to drink while you're cooking?
What's that?
Do you have a favorite thing to drink while you're cooking?
We're pretty much a vodka ginger ale house here recently. That's been the beverage of choice. Moved on from gin and tonics. I do like those occasionally. Red wine, of course. This is a great dish for red wine. So I'm just searing off the other side just a little bit, just to get some color in them. Don't necessarily have to do this. This is a really thick pot roast. So I've got this plate here. At least I'm gonna slide by quick. Slide this over. And I'm just going to put this pot roast on a plate as we kind of move to our next stage of the cooking. I can get it. Come on. There we go. Pot roast down. So now what we're going to do is quickly into that pot, we're going to go ahead and add our root vegetables, onion and carrot and celery that we cut up. We're also going to stir in a cup of red wine. This will splatter up potentially a little bit as you do it. That's okay. It's just cooling down the pan. That red wine is also going to release any of the little bits that we had that were sticking to the bottom of the pan from the cooking of the beef. Again, all those little bits, that's flavor, right? That's really where we're going to get some of those roast kind of caramelized notes. What we're going to do is we're going to cook this down for a little while here. And while that's going, I think Lisa was going to tell us a little bit about the Ronald McDonald House at Lurvy.
Chef, I have one question for you before we go to Lisa about the wine you used. So if you don't drink red wine or, it's not your favorite thing, any recommendations for either picking a wine if you're not drink it or something instead?
Yeah, typically I used to use bolder wines in this, like Cabernet, for example, or a Merlot will do really well. If you don't want to drink a whole bottle, they do sell like small, if you don't want to open a whole bottle, or drink a whole bottle. They do sell smaller size bottles of wine too, typically at the grocery store, or even wine for cooking. You'll see that sometimes at the grocery store as well. Either of those are really good. The last thing you do though is want to use like a really expensive bottle of wine for something like this, because we're just kind of cooking it down. It's in there for just a little bit of flavor. I wouldn't spend more than $8 on what you're using for this.
Could you do beef stock if you don't want to drink? Or if
you
don't want
beef. If you want, you could definitely do that. You could pour beef stock in there as well, and it would be good.
And then someone asked one more question. If they could use leftover, like older red wine they had in the fridge as vinegar in other recipes. I haven't heard of that. That's an interesting idea.
Well, you can use older red wine will turn to vinegar, right? So that ultimately that's what will happen if you leave a bottle open. That's why you see things like red wine vinegar at the store, or balsamic.
Is he gone for everyone?
I think we just lost Jeff. But Lisa, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that he'll be rejoining us because I certainly don't know anything about making pot roast, but I do know a little bit about Ronald McDonald House. And so thanks for joining us for this fundraiser. Oh, he's back. I see him. because, it's been a tough year for Ronald McDonald House, like so many nonprofits that you might care about. It's been hard. We've been fortunate because we've had great supporters like yourselves that are keeping us afloat. But we need to be here for the families that need to stay with us, because despite the pandemic, childhood illness still exists. And so there is critical care that these kiddos need, whether we have a pandemic going on or not. So we've changed a lot of our operating practices to keep everyone safe. Obviously, we're all masked up here. Our occupancy is considerably lower because planned procedures are being postponed. Plus, we need to guarantee social distancing within the house. So this beautiful kitchen, for any of you who have been to the Ronald McDonald House near Laurie Children's, we have two. I'm in the family kitchen right now. Beautiful kitchens, beautiful spaces for our families to enjoy and our volunteers to provide service in. And they're pretty much vacant right now. Our volunteer groups are coming in to help us prepare meals for families to come and take away and go and eat in their bedrooms, which is a bummer, right? That's not the official term, but that's true, because Ronald McDonald Houses are very much about community, and food brings community. And so one of the most amazing parts of a Ronald McDonald House is being able to sit here in the kitchen and the dining rooms and enjoy a meal together in community. And that's the part that's missing right now. So, like everyone, we're looking forward to putting COVID in our rear view. But for now, we're just doing our best to provide the services that our families need, because that's just what we do.
Lisa, someone asked a great question. Can people volunteer to cook one night if it's just two people coming to volunteer?
Yes. So here we have much reduced, and I know some people that are on this call have volunteered in the past. So thank you so much for doing that. You might have been at this house with a group up to maybe even 20 people providing volunteer services at one time. Now we're doing 5. So we've kind of worked through the kitchen and created different pods and spacing for our volunteers. Chef Kevin, who you met at the beginning of the event tonight, he'll be leading groups in preparing meals. There's a lot of differences, and if you go to our website, you can read through an extensive list of how it would feel different volunteering with us now versus before. Those are all based on the best practices in safety in kitchens and so on. But essentially, you prepare the meal and then you create takeaway meals for families that we put up, right, for families to come and pick up at their convenience throughout the day. So it's a little bit different than it was, but absolutely, our volunteerism right now, we took a full hiatus for a while until we caught up with what those best practices were to keep everyone safe. And then we had a very slow return. We're only delivering about 11% of our typical essential volunteer services right now. Staff members are providing, we're taking on those duties. I've never missed anyone more than our volunteers right now, because they're so critical to our operations. We did not, fortunately, we did not furlough staff during this pandemic so far, which we're grateful for.
Lisa, sorry, I was just gonna say a couple other questions. Someone asked, can they make meals to bring into the house to give to families? Or are there other ways that people could donate meals?
Yeah, so we do, you can't cook at home and bring it in unless you have a chef's kitchen, a commercial grade kitchen, or access to that. But you can have meals, you can host catered meals to come in, which we would, portion out for families to be able to pick up. That's one way to help. There's a couple of different ways you can go through the logistics of that, either making the donation and the staff executes that meal, or you can we'll give you some suggestions and then you can go out and order it yourself. So there are ways to virtually support our families with a tangible meal, or come in and cook in the same way that you did before, just with a smaller group. So it's a, you know, small and scrappy, because we just need to make sure that everyone can spread out.
All right, Jane. Sorry, so we lost connection there for a minute, but we're back on. Thanks, Lisa, for going through that. We're kind of ready for our next stage with the cooking. So, Lisa Gallagher, you can over here over the pot. You can see all that wine is pretty much cooked down. We've got most of the liquids out, and we've got some nice kind of caramelization going on. We're gonna go ahead now, and we're gonna add our onions and our garlic, shallots, and mushrooms. We're also going to add our 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Tomato paste is kind of the secret ingredient here too, because it's going to cook down even further. And also add a lot of those brown notes that we talked about that we really want to get into that gravy. Contribute to umami, that mysterious fifth sense that we all like to talk about, the savoriness. Or the MSG as well, so it'll be great. So we're going to cook that down, stir it around. When I say MSG, monosodium glutamate, there's a lot of that naturally in a lot of these ingredients that I just added here. Mushrooms, umami, tomatoes, umami, garlic, umami. You guys can hear me all right, right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool. This is going to get nice and caramelized for us.
Any other favorite winter dishes you have to make?
I like to make this. I like to make, we make a lot of biryani here during the wintertime. Uma's Southeast Indian, but it's a rice dish that you cook chicken, kind of similar to this, right? Where you cook the chicken first and then really render down the fat on the outside. It's not really fully cooked. But then you saute similar aromatics to this: onion, usually green pepper. Sometimes we put celery in it. Cook that down. Similar to kind of what I'm doing this. Add rice to it then. Stir that until the rice starts to kind of turn translucent. Add chicken stock and the chicken back into it, and you bake it in the pot. There's a lot of like different spices like whole cardamom, cloves, cinnamon, and chili powder. But different type of chili powder than what we were used to. It's more like straight cayenne. You can see it's burning a little bit to the pot. That's good. It's really kind of developing the color that we're looking for here.
Someone asked about the utensils you're using. Wood, metal, does it make a difference?
It doesn't make a difference, to be honest. If you're using a true non-stick pan, you may want to use something that's plastic or not that might not scratch the pan. Is really where you might want to use a wood or even like a plastic spatula. It would work really well for that. This is more of a durable material that I'm using this metal spoon on. I would normally use my wood spoon, but I think it's in the sink right now from when I made this earlier. I do like to use a wood spoon for something like this when I'm stirring a lot because it's not a good conductor of heat. This guy here is actually starting to get kind of hot with the music. You take a look in there, see all that nice color we got? That's what we're looking for. Just kind of continue to cook that tomato down. That tomato's really contributing to that. It's burning a little bit to the bottom of the pot, but I'm scraping it as I go and get a nice, deep, rich brown color. So now we're at that nice, deep, rich brown color. Go ahead and add our our beef stock to it, our broth. Doesn't matter what you use. You can stock our broth for this. Just don't want to use plain water. Water doesn't have a lot of flavor, right? Don't want to use chicken stock because you don't want it to taste like chickens. You could probably use vegetable stock. You'd probably be fine there if you want to do that. But all right, if you had that, you want to use it out with the straight beef stock. Uma asked, what do I think about low sodium? You can use that as well, particularly if you're worried about salt. That's totally fine. We're gonna screw that up. We're gonna get this back to a boil. For the next 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat down to low, cover it, and about every half hour I'll come back and I'll flip it and stir the pot just to make sure everything cooks more evenly, right? But never fear. About 2.5 hours ago, I started another one over here. So this is what the finished product will look like after 2.5 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and pull him out first so he cools down a little bit. I've got a cutting board for him to rest on. Looks like he may have broken it apart a little bit while we're in there, but that's okay. You can see how tender he's gotten, right? He's literally falling apart on me. Or she, maybe the pot roast is gender neutral. I don't know, we'll find out. So we're gonna go over to our pot here. As you can see, there's a lot of grease on the top of that. We're gonna go ahead and work on getting some of that grease out. We don't want it to turn gravy or sauce to be really oily. So we're gonna take a ladle, and we're just gonna, what you can do is just kind of push around the outside and dip down in. And you can see that it's gonna get some of that grease out the top. Again, we don't want this guy to eat greasy.
So, Chef, a couple of questions while you're doing that. First of all, bay leaves. Is that something that you've ever grown in the garden? Is that something people could grow in a little pot?
I don't think you can grow them this far north. I'm right, they come on a tree. I do know, I think it's Thomas Keller at the French Laundry has one that grows in a courtyard or something like that. So I do know that people do grow them. I've never done it myself.
I think I've done them in like little pots. It didn't last forever, but it lasted long enough.
Yeah.
So another question is, what if you pick too big of a pot and the liquid doesn't fully cover the pot roast?
Add more liquid.
So just more beef stock or water?
Yeah, more beef stock or water. It doesn't really matter. I take that back. It doesn't really matter. As long as you flip it in 30 minutes, you'll be fine.
Okay. And then what is the best way? So if people have this on their stove right now and it's going to cook for about 2 hours, what's the best way to cool this down and reheat it for tomorrow?
Right now, particularly in the Chicago area, just take that whole pot outside and stir it about every 30 minutes, and it'll be cool in no time. The other option, if you're not in Chicago, not in a place where it's a little warmer outside, you can make like a ice water bath and put this whole pot in it and stir the pot every 30 minutes and just keep replenishing the ice as it's going away, and it should cool down everything inside the pot. And then refrigerate it for later use.
Awesome. And then for reheating it, just put it back on the stove?
Put it back on the stove. You can nuke it if you want, but it's gonna be better if you put it on the stove.
And then could people do this and do the braising part in the oven versus the stovetop?
You can definitely braise in the oven too. You'd still want to bring it up to the heat like I did over here, so it's boiling right. But instead of the low heat here, you're gonna set your oven to probably about 325, 350. Put the whole thing in the oven. Again, probably about 2.5 hours. Pull it out, and it should be just as good.
Yum.
You'd want to probably stir it a little bit too, like I did. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the bay leaves out of this guy. We're gonna go in here quick. One bay leaf, put it right in that fat. See if I can find the other one.
The hardest part is always remembering how many bay leaves you used in the first place.
That's very true. But it's not a big deal if you get a bay leaf in your bowl. You can always pick it out when you're eating it too. So now we got our vegetables, beef. It's been degreased a little bit, so that's good. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work on thickening that liquid next as we let our pot roast cool a little bit still over here. So what I got in here is 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and roughly half a cup of water. We'll put that on the board here. We're gonna whisk this into here, water into there. Just completely dissolve that cornstarch to form a slurry. Now this is gonna be a thickening agent, and it's gonna thicken up our gravy, our sauce, I should say, for our pot. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn our heat back on high. Get this guy rolling again more. Let's stir. And we'll just stir that right into there. And what's going to do is it gets hot here. Once it's, I think it gels about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see it's thickening up the base for our pot roast here.
And how would you serve this?
I'm going to get to that in a minute here.
Perfect.
So you see we're pretty thick right now. I just want to get this to the point where it comes to a simmer.
When you use cornstarch, do you have to bring it back to a boil, or will it thicken immediately, or kind of how does that? I know cornstarch.
You have to usually bring it back to a boil or a simmer. It should gel about, I think it's around 180 degrees for cornstarch. I'm not positive though, but as long as you bring it back to a simmer, it'll go. You can see right now it's like.
Someone else asked, do you have to check the temperature of the meat when you pull it out?
Not this guy, because it's been in there, it's way cooked. Like it's been boiling in that liquid for over 2.5 hours. So it's more than well done. You'd have to check the temperature of a meat if you're doing like a roast, like a prime rib or a beef tenderloin roast, and you want to get it to a certain temperature. Like if you want to get that perfect mid-rare on your prime rib, you're taking it to 125 degrees internally, and then let it sit out for a little bit after that before you slice into it.
And someone else asked, can you use potato starch instead of cornstarch?
You most certainly could. You may want to check the level that you might want to add it to. I'm not sure if it'd be 1-to-1 with cornstarch or not, but should be pretty close. So we're gonna pull this guy out. We got some nice pieces here for our pot roast. So that extra juice, I'm just gonna dump right back into our pot. I'm gonna turn our pot heat down to low now, just so it stays warm for us. And we're gonna take this guy and slice it. So you wanna kind of slice it against the grain. You can kind of see the way the meat goes, the grain wise. So we're gonna slice it in pieces. Well, I don't like these tongs. Using the tongs because it's hot. Like that. Going again kind of against the grain so it holds together still. See that? But as you can see, this sucker is like fall apart tender right now.
It looks very good.
It is going to be delicious. Uma's getting a good happy birthday dinner.
Super excited.
So we're gonna go ahead, and then I just like to put this right back into the sauce before we plate it. See, it's holding together in those nice pieces. Cool. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just take this board. Got it. So when I plate my pot roast, I like to do it with mashed potatoes. So earlier, sorry guys, this wasn't part of the demo. Maybe it'll be part of future demos. I made some really good mashed potatoes. And by really good, they're probably 30% dairy product right now. So milk, butter, potatoes, a little bit of salt.
I think that's the right proportion.
Yep. So what I like to do is I like to put some of those potatoes down first. I'm just gonna grab a spoon into a bowl like this. Put them right in the center. Maybe a little more because we eat a lot of potatoes. Then I'm gonna grab a spoon. I'm gonna come over here to our pot roast to make sure he's got nice and he's doing pretty good in his bath over here. We'll take out a few pieces of him. That one there. Set another one over there. Come back and get some of our vegetables and gravy. Pour those kind of around the top. Maybe one more piece of pot roast to the top of the pot.
Chef, do you deliver?
Come on, Grubhub. And then I like to garnish it. Most of the time we'll use fresh chives with this. They didn't have any at the store, so we'll just use a few more of our chopped herbs and we're ready to go. Voila. So if you don't want to use potatoes, polenta is also a pretty good thing you can add to it. If you want to add potatoes directly to the sauce, maybe the last 20 minutes of cooking, add chopped potatoes to this, and you can have it right in the liquid to begin with. A lot of times I won't even use potatoes with this because we added so many of the starchy root vegetables. They're a little more healthy for you. So
Fantastic.
that's it, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, someone asked about polenta. So you just said you could do polenta as well?
Yeah, so you could either do heat up polenta on the stove, which is, again, it's like a cornmeal, serve it soft. Another thing that's kind of fun to do is you could take polenta, heat it up, get it to the point where it's a solid, get it to the point where it's ready, where it could be spooned, put it in a sheet tray, spread it flat across the sheet tray, set it in the refrigerator to the point it sets, and it'll set into a place where you can cut it into cubes or different sized triangles, and then pan fry it. I really like to do that with this because it adds kind of a crispy texture to it.
Fantastic. And then does anybody else have any other questions? I just don't want to miss anybody here. But while I'm waiting for people to chime in, if anybody has any questions, thank you guys so much. And Lisa, thank you for kind of sharing the story of, how everyone's tickets help support families today. So that's fantastic.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you to Chef Mike for such an amazing presentation. I need to go home and cook something now, but it won't be that good. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day and finding this virtual way to support our families and just bringing a little bit the virtual love of food together. So thank you so much.
Cool, thanks guys, enjoyed doing it. Uma's ready to dig in. He's already got his fork ready here. So we'll let him try it out. So.
And happy birthday,
Cool.
Uma.
Thanks, Mike.
Happy birthday, Uma.
Birthday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you donating, taking the time to come out and watch this tonight. Yeah.
It was
See
so
y'all.
fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Loved it.
thank you.
Thanks, Chef.
Happy birthday and pizza next time.
Yes.
Or
Sounds
chicken
good, guys.
parmesan.
Chicken Parmesan might be an option in the future.